myself in. Story time again. So last video I did like this. I talked about my Uncle Mike, and I talked about my Uncle Richard, and I've talked about the first school that I went to. So I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit and talk about, so if what I saw today is right around about 1989 or so is when we moved down to Arkansas. So that's from Southern Illinois to Arkansas. My dad's family is from Southern Illinois, and at the time my mom's family's living in Arkansas. So also around this time my dad had got a job driving trucks for, I think it was called H&V Trucks. It was like Jim Heatherly or something like that, and he was in Newport, Arkansas. And so from where my mom lives now, it's like a 30-minute ride or so. Anyway, so around 1989, my dad gets a job driving for H&V Trucking, and it's just not feasible, him with all of us living there, because that was back before you had auto pay and all that stuff like that. So he each week got a physical check, and so there was just no way of doing it. So we all ended up moving down to Arkansas, and I'm trying to remember, we moved back in with my grandma or grandpa for just a little bit or something, and then we moved down to Arkansas. And the first place that we moved into was a little trailer park right outside of Newport, and we lived there for a while. And some of the biggest changes of doing that was the school there. I've tried to find pictures, and I'll put the pictures that I can still find, because they demolished the school. But it was called Gibbs something, I think, Albright maybe. But the school, the elementary school in Newport, was round. So it was actually a circle, and then in the middle of it was the library. And so like all of the, what you would consider like the hallway and everything, was on the inside of the school. So on the inside there was like the room, and then there was like a breezeway type thing, and then it all kind of five-spoke connected into where the library was in the middle, kind of like a donut with a donut hole in it. And one of the other things that was different for me about that time is there was stuff, so this is the second grade for me. So we moved down there, and there were actually some discussions about putting me into like the special needs class, because I did not know how to write in cursive. I didn't know multiplications and things like that. And the reason I didn't know this stuff is because it wasn't being taught at school at the time in Illinois. That would have been like the next grade up for me. And so I remember sitting there and seeing all this stuff and not knowing it, and being told all this stuff, and you know, on top of the desk you had the little layout of cursive and stuff like that. And I remember having to memorize like multiplication tables on my own, because no one taught me how to do it. I had to learn this. So with all that happening, I ended up getting sent back a grade, and I had to repeat the second grade because of this. And about the only other thing I remember about going to that school in that time was at one point something happened and I didn't have a jacket, and I got a jacket from Lost and Found, and it was a Dallas Cowboys jacket. I don't know why I didn't have a jacket or what was going on, but I do remember that. And so, like I said, we lived in the trailer park right outside the edge of town. And at one point, I think my mom's sister was living with us with her husband. And I mean, it wasn't big. It was like a 2 or 3 bedroom thing, and like me and my brother, we always shared rooms and everything like that. And I think my sister had a room that my aunt and her husband ended up staying in. And for some weird reason, I was thinking about all this, and I remember when we moved down there, that's about the time Ghostbusters 2, the movie, came out. So this is why I say this has to be 89, because I looked up when the movie came out, and it came out in 89. So I remember, I couldn't remember which restaurant had the little promotion, but apparently Hardee's had this little promotion where if you want to call it the kids meal, came in a Ghostbuster 2 themed little plastic container. So you would either get like a proton pack. I think there was like a Slimer one, and I think one of them was the Ectomobile, the car that they drove around in. And with that, I remember we went and ate at, I guess it had to be Hardee's, and they had the little play place outside, but it wasn't much of a play place. But it had one of those little spring like dinosaur things that you sat on, or like horses that would rock back and forth. And yeah, we broke one of them, and that's about all I remember about that. And then I remember around that time we had an Atari, which is a very old gaming system, and we had like Pac-Man and a few games like that, and all we had to play it on was a little black and white TV in our room. But for Christmas one year, there was the grocery store there, the Price Chopper, and like back in the long ago, many moons ago, you would go into the grocery stores and they would have like video rentals in them. So they'd have like a little you could rent new movies and things of that nature. Well, they also had where you could buy, I think they had where you could buy like VCRs and things like that, but they had the Nintendo, the first NES system. And so for Christmas one year, we got an NES system, and we thought that was just like the greatest thing. And for the longest time, the only game that we ever had for it was Mario Brother and Duck Hunt, because that's what came with it. But I do remember getting the system and opening it up and us hooking it up and playing and everything like that. Oh, excuse me. But there's not much else about that time that I remember. I remember like a few things coming here and there. But we weren't in Newport for an extended period of time. And like going into anything else would take a little bit too long to roll over into this one. But oh, the crazy thing about all of this is, so years later I'm in Korea, and they say it's a small world being in the Army. And so I start talking to this guy, one of my soldiers, and he is from Newport. And so we start talking, and I said, yeah, I lived in Newport for a little bit. And he's like, oh yeah. Then we started talking about the school. And for some reason, I was thinking it was named Castleberry. It might just be because I lived on a street called Castleberry when I was younger. But we were talking about, you know, the elementary school and how it was round and it had the little library in the middle of it. And people were looking at us like we were stupid. They're like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, that makes absolutely no sense. And we're like, hey, you know, both of us are saying the exact same thing at the same time, so we're both not crazy. And it's just kind of weird how, you know, here you are in a country far away. It was like 12 or 14 hour time difference, something like that. But you still run into somebody from close to the area where you lived. And I had another story like that about a dude in Germany, which I'll tell at another point, about a camper being on fire. But that's for another time. So, until the next one, I just want you to know that I love you, and I'll always love you. And I'm on my way home now, so I will actually see you in about 15 minutes. Bye.